Hello. My name is Aniruddha, and I welcome you to this YouTube channel of mine. If you're a regular here, I'm sure you know that birds are my favorite subject, especially my local ones. This is a painting I did very recently, and it just so happens that the common kingfisher was also the subject for one of my first watercolor paintings, which I did back in the year 2021. To see how far I had come, I dug through my archives and found that first kingfisher. I had done this by following along a YouTube tutorial. Having done so, it sent me down a rabbit hole of sorts. Cityscapes and landscapes were something I got into much later. This one's from 2021. This is probably the first night scene I did, and I didn't like it back then as well. Actually, this was my second attempt. The first one I tore up. So now, in 2024, let's see if I can do a better job with this. Let's see how far I've come. Even today, I still say this is a very challenging reference image. Not a lot of contrast apart from the bright light sources. To make my life a little easier, I'm going to crop down the reference image to just the area that caught my interest. I'm making this sketch in the sketchbook that I recently made myself. There's a video about the sketchbook on the channel too. You'll find a link to it in the top right corner. I'm going to use my small urban sketching palette for this scene. However, unlike most times I use this palette, I am going to focus a lot more on big wet washes and a little less on the line work. This being a night scene, I prefer to start from the sources of light, where I initially added some warmth and then slowly move away from those light sources. I also need to be mindful that my washes need to be a little stronger than usual, as this is a night scene and everything needs to appear dark. Ideally, I should have gone a little bit warmer with those light sources, but I am limited by my palette, which has only one yellow. You'll repeatedly see me lifting out some paint every now and then to maintain that sense of light and keep the highlights looking bright. I eventually made the decision to use a few colors not in this limited palette. I did use a buff titanium and a lavender as I progressed. Before that first pass of paint is completely dry, I start with my second pass of paint. I'm painting this in July, which is the wettest month in my city. This moisture in the air allows me a lot of time to work wet in wet. I want that building in the back to have a lot of soft edges to create a sense of depth. Everything I'm painting in this second layer can be considered as mid-tone value. And I want all those midtones to be connected as one large shape wherever I possibly can keep it connected. For adding in those windows, I'm using some opaque paint, lavender this time. I want to take a minute to make a plug for my classes over on Skillshare. If you enjoyed looking at the watercolor birds at the beginning of this video, my Skillshare is just the place for you. In each class, I provide step-by-step instructions along with drawing templates and personalized feedback. Use the link in the description for this video to access one of my Skillshare classes free of charge. Even though these values can largely be classified as mid-tone, there is a little bit of variety within them, and it's nice if you can add that while you are putting it down the layer. Most of this layer is done, the large shape is connected. As it is still wet, I want to add in some of the darker middle values. I also want to add in a few more finishing touches. At this stage in a painting where the layer is rapidly drying, this is when accidents are most likely to happen and you need to be at your most vigilant. As I mentioned, it's a very wet day today and it is taking a long time for my paper to dry. So I have chosen not to use my regular fountain pen and use the gel pen instead. The advantage the gel pen has over most fountain pens is that the gel pen can easily be used over a damp surface, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. For adding in some highlights, I use a white jelly roll pen, which is also a type of gel pen. Now that the paper is dry, I can use my 0.2 tip fine liner pen. I'm going to use this pen mostly for a few details in the background. I don't want the lines to be too thick there, but I do want to add in maybe a couple of cars parked in the distance, and I think this is the best pen for that purpose. I'm now adding in some of those wires connecting the street lights. Those wires will also give the scene a sense of perspective and depth. We are now at the final stage of the sketch where I add in the darkest elements. I left those closer windows for last because I want them to be done on dry paper so I get sharper edges. I was hoping to get a little bit of a broken brushstroke when doing those windows. Even though I used the appropriate technique, unfortunately that did not happen. I'm trying to keep my strokes as simple as possible with those human figures. Just put the paint down and leave it. It's okay if the colors merge. These are dark silhouetted figures after all. I should actually have used my white gel pen to add these highlights, but ended up using my white gouache instead. To finish, I'll just add a little bit of color to those street signs. I feel I executed every step of the process as I had planned. It is a big improvement over the 2021 attempt, especially the perspective drawing. That said, it still feels like it's lacking something, but I don't know what. Maybe a little bit more color would have been nice. Thank you for joining me here today. There'll be a lot more to follow. But in the meantime, why not check out one of the suggested videos that have just popped up to the right hand side of your screen?